All right, and we are live. Flashpoint Morning Lighthouse Edition. What's going on, Ebontis?
Post breakfast, got to get it in, but yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
Yeah, man. Friday morning, man. Got to get to the lighthouse early. Go right past Osiris, that big circle of Mercury.
Yeah, make a detour on the left, and you'll be there by morning.
Exactly. What's going on in the world, man?
Oh man, well, knocked out a solo nightfall last night, which is just again a little more eye-opening about a few things we'll discuss.
Mhm.
Waiting basically for next week just to see what is going to come, but we got a little preview of some patch notes, so I've got some words for what we got. We'll have some things to talk about, and
Yeah,
just
man.
got even just another revelation in the world of Destiny 2, and just kind of some of the creators out there, some of the content, and just some of the major sites that follow this will have some things to talk about. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's got this one's a big one.
yeah,
We're gonna have some stuff to talk about. Well, at least
yeah,
coming up. Let's just say
yeah.
that.
Next week will be a lot of detail to talk about. This week is a lot of just world stuff to talk about. Real life. Things are
Yeah,
happening.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
as you guys know, this week at Bungie dropped. It was a fairly short one, so this part could be shorter, but our discussion afterwards may get longer. So, Flashpoint, Long Point, probably one of both. But
Exactly.
so this week at Bungie, they just discussed the faction rallies are coming. This is the last one for season 2. Gonna see if future War Cult has a chance, but honestly, most people I've talked to, I don't know if they care, because you have New Monarchy with a grenade launcher, and they're terrible, and you have 2 sniper rifles. And I was literally going through weekly reset. I was like, okay, so let me log in, not look, and see what my real reaction is when I look at these sniper rifles.
Uh-huh.
And both of them have the same perk at the end, so there's not a whole lot of distinction between them. One's rapid, one's mid, but the perk is that when you get like critically wounded, it'll reload ammo in the magazine. I'm going, okay, so let me think how this is going to go. I'm going to get critically wounded with a sniper rifle. I'm probably going to hide, and if I'm hiding, I
Yeah,
can probably reload. So this perk does me no good, and it's on both
exactly.
snipers. Like, are you kidding
Mhm.
me? So,
Yeah,
I
completely
mean,
agree.
some of
Completely
the
agree.
some of the guns from the drops that you can get from the engrams I hear are okay, but I mean the ones you're shooting for 50 grand in case you don't pick the right faction, like that's our choices for the last one. They definitely go out with a bang. Basically, as I said, they kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, man.
So I
I
don't know.
hear
What do you
you.
think? Did you look at them? Did you even
Yeah, I
care? Did you
looked at
log
them. I
in?
mean, to me right now, it's all about like meta. Like if I was gonna do it, to me, it's just all about prepping for the new meta with the hope that, snipers get to where they need to be, that kind
Yeah.
of bit. So it really didn't interest me. I mean, at this point, I've got like a whole bunch of snipers I've been just kind of like sitting on in the vault and just ready to bust those bad boys out.
Oh, I thought you were going to
Once
say
they're
your
ready.
vault was about to bust open, but that's different.
Well, that too. You already know with the vote situation. Shout out to Destin Legary.
Yep.
With the countdown on the vote fix when
It's like
that's
at some
supposed to be
point he's
happening.
going to be like, it's 1300. I'm like, oh, we passed 13. It's been 1200 days for a little while, but that's so crazy. So that'll be another point that we'll talk about later. But
Exactly.
yeah, so not much there. So we'll see who wins, but I think most of us are kind of lackluster on worrying about it. So if you don't pick the right faction, I don't think you'll need to worry about spending the 50 grand. That's basically
Yeah.
all I'll say.
Yeah. Exactly. You'll be all right.
Seems like it. So they talk about the Nightfall scoring and challenge cards a little bit, but mostly about the Nightfall specific rewards. So they bolded the one title from a previous discussion or section. Each terrible villain that players face.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Each
Stay
terrible
awake
villain
now,
that players
Marcus. Come
face
on now.
should have a very rare and powerful unique item themed to them that tumbles to the ground as they collapse in a pile of bones. Cool in theory. Sweet. So conquering Nightfall should be a badge of honor with players to show off their achievements with dynamic emblems, exclusive auras, and hopefully some new stuff. Now, last week they asked us, and they were even posting on Twitter, it's like, do you guys want to see these rewards? And I guess the answer is no, unless they're going to post them up in patch notes, because we have no idea of what they're going to be.
I feel where they're going with this. I do think that I agree with the logic that they don't need to be showing all the Nightfall rewards. We
Yeah.
don't want to spoil the whole thing. But I do would like to get a glimpse of just
That's what I
one,
was,
just to
that
get an
was,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that was my reply when I think it was a Dylan sent it out. I was like, can I just have like maybe just like a quarter of a picture of one. Just like give us a glimpse and let us
Yeah, a little
speculate.
snippet. Give us a little snippet, you know what I'm saying? Just to get an idea. Because again, we just want to see the level of the quality, right? Because,
Yep.
we've seen certain things like when they did the was it the Crucible ones,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean as far as the ornaments are concerned, right? We were just like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So we need to see some flair. I want to be shining out there. I want to, I want to see something. That kind of thing. So it is kind of important.
Yeah, so it would have been nice to have seen something. And I didn't want to see it all. It's like, hey, we have, not that many strikes, depending on weapons or armor, what the drops are.
Right.
Not that many, but I would like to have seen just a little glimpse. But what they're saying about these drops is they're going to be supposedly hard to get. So these rewards have a chance to drop when you complete a Nightfall at any difficulty, which is, we'll come back to that here in a second. You can increase your chances using challenge card modifiers to set at higher personal best scores, which is a weird sentence. So you can increase your chances for the drop using the challenge card modifiers to set higher personal best scores. I'm like, yes, I know the challenge card gets you best scores, but I guess it increases your drop chance as well. I don't know. Earning these items may take multiple attempts to receive a drop, as they are meant to be rare rewards. So as they said last week, we gathered feedback on how the community would like to discover these rewards, either through a quick tease on here, the blog, or from those among you who find them. So basically, they're just saying we're going to be watching the legends unfold. So if you find one out there in the world, take a picture, post on Twitter. You may be one of the early ones if you're playing at Reset. So
exactly.
So what do you think? Do you think these should be from the normal Nightfall? Do you think it should be prestige only? They want them to be rare.
Yeah, I mean, prestige needs to have some type of flair to it too. So I mean, I'm indifferent. Right now, my main concern with this whole reward stuff, the emblem stuff, doesn't excite me that much. And my thing is, if you're gonna do emblems, you gotta do emblems, right? You gotta make them shine. You gotta make them very ornate, that kind of thing. So right now, to me, they're okay. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but the variations to me is still not enough. Or I just want it very, like have it some type of animation going on,
Yeah,
make it shine.
Yeah, and then so I mean, somebody could run challenge card at highest score difficulty. You could run your first Nightfall on 270 and get the same thing.
Yeah.
So again, just kind of given the easier the route, more people will take that. So I mean, if they do it once and they get a high score, they're not going to grind against the, Now they're saying if you do the prestige, supposedly you have a higher chance, but I guess we'll see how that goes. Exactly. I don't know. At least putting it behind even just a prestige completion, maybe not the the hardest, lowering your level down and all that stuff, but in general, I don't know. I would have been okay with it behind prestige. Would have given me a reason to run prestige.
Yeah, actually, I'm leaning towards that direction as well. I think you're right. I think it has to be prestige. You have to make that distinction. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, everybody can get 335 at this point, and you don't have to lower your damage down. You just have to finish it. So even if you just, throw the damage multiplier on there and you're just running a prestige, I haven't had an issue finishing a prestige with friends. Mm-hmm. It's been a little bit of a struggle when the timer was there, but now the timer's not there. Yeah, I think it'll be all right. So
yeah, absolutely.
Shout
out to the timer not being there.
It's different, yeah. It takes me a long time to finish some of these with guides, but yeah, Esoteric's still crushing them, so hats off to that guy. He's still killing it.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Competitive housekeeping. So they are going to work on some quitter penalties. So the biggest thing about competitive playlists is you can't join in progress. So if you leave, you pretty much screw your whole team over. So they want to find a way to counter that and give you incentive not to. Yes. So they're working on temporary restrictions, potentially up to a 30-minute length for habitual quitters. Now, if you do it once randomly, you may have a 5-minute thing, and if you have food delivered, you can go get that and you come back, you may have to wait a couple minutes. Not the end of the world, but they're trying to basically make it to where they want to make sure you have a solid connection. I love how they have that in bold.
Bold. Yeah,
bold. Here's a link and how to fix your connection. Yeah, fix your connection because our connections are based on your connections because we don't have dedicated servers.
Exactly.
So it's your fault, not ours.
Yep.
And just throwing their hands up on that one again. I mean, if you want something to be competitive, you're going to have a point where you have ranked playlists and you still do not have dedicated servers. I don't know. I play on PC more than most, and I don't feel it too much on there. I feel like if I went back to console, I'd probably feel the lag more. So, PC feels a little better just because it's through BattleNet and it's probably mostly solid connections. But yeah, console, I probably feel your pain on that one. I just haven't been on there in a bit.
That was probably my biggest disappointment when Destiny 2 got announced in the very beginning, because at the very minimum I thought this would be okay. They're going all out. They gotta have dedicated servers this time. And to me, just I don't know if that's an Activision thing, because it seems to be consistent across the board with a lot of their games, including Call of Duty. And that's a problem, especially when these franchises are making and generating as much, money as they are.
Yeah.
You have to commit to the base, and you have to have dedicated servers. Is everything perfect? But it's better than peer to peer.
Yeah,
tell you that much
for sure. And that just seems like one of those that a ton of people have asked for. They asked for them for most of Destiny 1. It's like, how do you not do that? Even maybe if quick play is peer to peer and then competitive, at least they make that a dedicated server so people can't DDoS, people can't drop you. Like, make at least the competitive environment something that lives up to the name. So.
Absolutely.
They're also saying they're going to work on some security features. They're not obviously telling us what they are, so people can't figure out how to get around them, which is, that's fair. Like, we're not going to be like, hey, this is how you break our system. Well, they're not going to do that. This is how you break into the White House. Go here. So, no. So they've got some stuff they're working on so they can detect cheaters quicker and basically give them, their penalties quicker. So it's a good thing. But they said their work isn't done. More is to come in 1.2. So basically right now, try not to quit. If you're going in the competitive playlist, just be ready to be there, or at least be there long enough for your match. Don't go in and be like, have to bail. And if you bail and you have 30 minutes, well, you're probably not in the house anyway, so it's probably not the end of the world.
Exactly. Cut your shenanigans.
Yep.
Get the match finished.
All right, so I will save my thoughts until the end. You already know, because I even texted you about one last night. I was like, dude.
Yeah, I saw the text. I said, oh, here we go.
So we got a 1.1.4. We got a little preview. Now, this is by no means everything, because they're going to have the sandbox gun changes and things like that in there. So all that stuff will be, but there's a glimpse of some of the stuff we can expect. If you guys can hear my dog barking in the background, sorry, they're going for walks. So
I don't even hear him.
No, that works.
Shout out to Saladin's Wolves. I didn't even hear him.
Yeah, man, my Huskies, yeah. You guys can check it out on Twitter. I posted a pic yesterday. I actually had them facing the right direction, so yeah, check it out.
No doubt.
So when playing Strike or Crucible activities, repeat reduction will be introduced to prevent players from playing the same Strike or Crucible map multiple times. Okay, this is good. Why is this March? I don't know, but this is good. There's a lot of that's going to happen in here. So, exotic repetition reduction will prevent players from receiving the same exotic reward multiple times in a row from exotic engrams. Players can still receive repeat exotic rewards from milestones and other sources. You've got, hold that, increased the max power handicap from 40 to 45 on Nightfall Challenge card. The timer to activate patrols has been reduced from 3 seconds to 1 second. Another comment there, but I'll save it for a bit. Fixed an issue where players could be prevented from reaching the boss encounter on a garden world. Now, this one I haven't done. I soloed it a lot last week and failed, by the way. But I don't know if it's just broken where you can't get to the top platform, but, fixing a strike is a good thing, for sure. Fix an issue but again, they're fixing an issue where players couldn't get to the boss encounter by strike. And when did Curse of Osiris come out?
What was it? Was it December?
December.
Yeah, December. Yeah.
So mid-December to late March, 4 months.
That's a problem.
It hadn't happened to me, but I don't know when it happened. So fixed an issue where some emblems were not displaying the statistic they track. Okay. QA testing. Gotta get on that.
Gotta get a QA in.
Now, this one actually happened to me recently. I don't know if it was like a background fix or what, but this one I actually noticed recently. I'm like, why am I fighting my shader page? Fixed an issue where applying or previewing a shader on an item would turn players to the top page.
I've had this, and it'll bump you back up to the top.
I'm like, why? I was like, I'm sitting there fighting, and I'm going, all right, this can't be right. So it was good for them to acknowledge being that I'm not crazy. So
you ain't bugging out.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to go back to the top here. The one about repeat reduction on playlists like Crucible and Strike activities, that's good. That should have been in there. Give you some variety. It's going to happen sometimes, but I hear people talk about like, hey, I seem to always start on this one, or I play this one like 3 times in a row. So
absolutely,
type of thing in the background to be like, hey, you've played this one. At least don't, even if you go every other, even if I played, like, you wouldn't play it again. So some way to just track, hey, this is the last map they played in Crucible. Even if it was like 20 minutes ago, maybe not throw them in the same one. Now, if you're with a group, yeah, maybe a little harder. But generally, I think people see more repetitions than they should.
Absolutely.
Speaking of no, no, you go.
No, no, I'm just saying this is a real underrated feature, and it's just like, this is what needs to happen. It's like you go through that rut. You play in a couple of Crucible matches, and then ultimately it's just like, damn, this map again, and it just seems to happen way too much. So that is much needed.
Mm-hmm. For sure, as many people are going to be jumping into Crucible a little bit more with stuff coming next week. We've got the playlists for Rumble, 66 Iron Banner. We've got that rotation coming in, so I'll be excited to see. And Mayhem, if nothing else, just be a little crazy fun.
Absolutely.
All right, so bullet point 2. I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, I know you're about to go in. Oh, yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna surprise you on this with the exotic repetition reduction.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna go opposite from you, opposite only for one reason. Your whole point, I already know what it is.
Yep.
You are correct. Needs to get fixed, and it needs to be something outside of with the milestones things. I completely feel your pain that players can still receive repeated exotic rewards from milestones and other sources. That becomes annoying. My issue is just that at this point, it's like, what exotics don't we not have? So it's like, I mean, here's my question to you. Like, not saying that this is correct, like that the problem is not an issue. It is an issue. My issue is like, at this point, like when you get your 5th, what is it, Knucklehead Radar or whatever Hunter exotic, I mean, what are you really doing but just breaking it down for shards at this point? So I just think that the issue ultimately, there's still what we always harp on, not enough exotics, and then ultimately the exotic source is just too easy to get. And I think ultimately they need to reduce it and just make it difficult to get, because I just feel like we're just raining exotics every minute, So that's just where I'm at with it. But I know you're about to go, so let me get my coffee. I know you're about to go in right now.
No, and I totally honestly agree. I mean, I played on I kind of split, because I played on PS4 from release, and then I waited for PC, and then I kind of shifted over. So what I had on PS4 and dumped a fair amount of time into, I don't have that anymore. So PC, I don't have everything. So when I do get 4 of the same set of gloves, 5 of the same chest for a Warlock, like when I have stuff like that and there are things I haven't received yet, that's when this tends to bug me. So that's where splitting the time between PS4, and I haven't played as much as some, like Mesa Sean probably has like 600 hours. I probably have, 200 on PC or something like that, but I played on PS4 as well. So it's like I've split my time and haven't been as into it, jumped off on Monster Hunter World. And as you guys know, many of us have taken little breaks and not been doing it as much. But all that aside, it happened to me again. I had 2 in my inventory, literally on my character, and then 1 in the vault. It's the Aeon safe gloves, and we all know they're kind of trash.
Oh, those are trash.
Yeah, and it's the whole, Aeon, the 3 for each character. They're all pretty terrible. So I had 2 of those on my character, finished up the Nightfall, went over to Zavala and be like, all right, what am I going to get? I got some legendary, and then I got these gloves again. And I'm like, I literally got those, that was the last exotic I got, I feel, on this character. It was the same one. So just the fact that I'm getting duplicates that consistently, and now you're going to tell me the only thing you're fixing is exotic engrams. I know they throw them at us in many other places between milestones. I'm trying to think of what else. Milestones is the big one I get them from. I guess probably I've seen them in chests, but that's usually going to turn into an engram. So if not an engram and not milestones, I guess I don't know. Milestones is the big one, but either way, the fact that it's they only fixed half of it kind of because I've done that. I've turned in an engram and I've turned in a milestone. Well, if I get a new thing in engram, but I go over to a milestone and I get the same thing I just got, you didn't fix your problem. Yeah, so thanks. That was just one of those I was reading through, and I was like, it happened to me literally before I read this. So that's why I
know you was extra tight.
I was a little frustrated. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just that's kind of one of those you have to bash your head and go, okay, you want to fix exotic repetition reduction, fix it completely. Or if you're saying, or give me some transparency to say, hey, we got the exotic engrams fixed. We could kind of look at your vault now. Milestones pull from a different pool, or they look at different things, and we're working on changing that. If they had that explanation in there, I would have been less peeved at the whole bullet point, just because I would have known why.
Absolutely.
Now, if they still are just like, hey, duplicate's going to happen, we don't care. That's how some will read this, myself included at the time. Now, there may be more to it, but again, they just don't tell us. So, a little extra transparency if you're not going to fix something completely.
Which is a regression on transparency.
Yeah.
I do agree with you on that.
So, increase max power from 40 to 45. So, 40 takes you to basically 295. So, now this will take you to 290. So, if you're not 335 max, you're actually going to be 289. So, I don't know if they still do it like every 10 is a different level of damage. So, if you're not at that 290, maybe it's going to hurt more. I don't know if that's the reason for this. This seems random. Like 40 points is still a good chunk to lower yourself. So now 45, it's odd. I don't know what the point in that is. The next one basically just made me laugh. The timer to activate patrols has been reduced from 3 seconds to 1 second. I literally only did like 3 or 4 patrols to activate that milestone. I haven't done one since. There is no point in doing patrols.
None.
Zero. Like
zero.
They're about as. They're the only thing that's probably less useful
for this one. I want to know where the pitchforks were for this one.
I mean, if you're going to start your character and you do the patrols, you're like, oh yeah, that did take a while. But it's been like months since I've even thought about doing a patrol. So I had to remember that it was slow. So that was just weird. And the rest of it we kind of covered. It's like, and fixing the shader inventory thing, that was good because I was just going out of my mind for a second. I'm like, why is this happening? This is weird. So
very annoying.
Good to have that acknowledged. But outside of that, next week we do have patch 1.1.4 coming. Boom. So servers will be down 9 a.m. Pacific time. They will be coming up 11 a.m. Pacific. So quicker server time than I've actually done, which is nice. And I'm actually probably going to be off on Tuesday evening, so you guys can check me out. Probably looking at Sandbox playing or Nightfall, seeing if things go a little quicker. So I'll be playing that evening. I have a couple things as well. Spreading awareness. Now, on this one, it cracks me up because I hate the strike anyway. So the strike activity, Exodus Crash, which is the one with the guy who teleports and goes invisible like 20 times.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody likes the strike. Everybody that I hear, it's like I've heard Mark on the Garden Radio talk about it. I've heard multiple people like this strike is just. And then when you had a timer on it, it was so much worse because he'd disappear for like 30 seconds, and you're just like,
oh. It would be the worst. Oh my god, yeah, that was definitely worse.
Yeah, depending on your super, you could use Golden Gun with like Celestial. You could use Void Bomb, but if you did anything with like a continuous, like if I was going to pop Striker and slam him, he'll disappear before I could finish getting my damage off on my super. So, that one, I hate that strike.
Yeah, that one's annoying.
But they said it's not going to be featured as a Nightfall. Yes, I love that. That is awesome news.
But why? Tell them why.
So, due to a known issue preventing progress when players are attempting to collect energy spikes. So, I think it's the first 2 sections when you're collecting those little blue beams of light.
Yes.
And that's been going since literally the Prestige Nightfall was that like the first time. So, it's been an issue for a while. Our current goal is to resolve this issue in 1.2.0. You don't even have that many strikes in the first place. The ones from Mercury are duplicates of missions with the ending of it cut off. Yes. And now you have another strike that doesn't work that most of us hate anyway. You guys getting a theme? Like, come on, strikes need some needle. I don't know, man. Strikes are even in a rough spot.
I hear it.
So I was getting a little salty last night. I was getting a little salty last night. I was working. Okay, so here was the thing, and this is where I come back to. Like, Monster Hunter scaled things well. Certain things will scale for the number of people in any game. They have a way to do that. If I'm going to go in solo versus I'm going to go in with a team of 3, do you feel that should be the same strike? That I should have to put the same amount of damage? My example, before you answer that, is take a knight in a strike. You're going to have an elite knight, so the orange bars. They're a pain in the butt. I'll literally unload a clip on them, and then they pop their shield up, their black shield, and they get health. Okay, so they do that for a little while, and then they shimmy behind the wall to get their other energy shield up. I'm literally just dumping clips into these guys, and one of them took me like 2 minutes to kill, because by myself, without missing him that much, shield, getting health back, shield, getting this other one back, shield, like, I can't finish a clip before his shield comes back up. Now, I know with a group, they could probably do more damage and kill him quicker, but by myself, that's just, like, tediously frustrating. Like, why am I doing that? So absolutely. If they scaled the solo players a little bit more, it doesn't have to be like 100% to 200%. Maybe it was just like some difference between them would be nice. I don't know.
So are you saying you need help, Ebontis? Is this what you said?
I
I'm just
finished the damn strike, okay?
kidding.
But it took me 2 hours to do it.
I'm
And that's what I was
teasing
like,
you. I'm
I'm off my
teasing
game on some of it, and it's like, and I could probably use rockets and things more, but it's also the idea of when I go, somebody has an arc shield, so say a knight has an arc shield, and I shoulder charge them, and I don't even completely drop his shield, that's
Yeah,
another
that's a
thing. Like,
problem. It's a problem. And it's discouraging at the end of the
yeah.
day. No, I get it.
I was like,
I
we want to
totally get
feel
it.
a little bit godlike, and this is a normal. This isn't even prestige. This is normal.
Wow. Wow.
So I was like, and this like it's like shield bash, like if or not shield bash, but probably the same thing. If I run and charge and I match his shield type with an arc charge, like shoulder charge, I should probably at least drop his shield, then back off and shoot him. If I can even drop his shield with a charge of the same shield
Yes,
type, yeah, that hurts. So.
I agree.
But yeah, I don't mind seeing Exodus Crash go away. It's totally fine. Fix it, but fix the boss too. He's just fun.
Hmm.
They also said the removal of radar from competitive and trials will also. You can't like bring the radar back with Knucklehead radar, for example. So anything that changes radar perks is not going to
Right.
change the way competitive and trials works.
As it should.
Right.
As it
I
should.
mean, yeah,
We want this to be a competitive mode, no radar.
everyone
So
would run
definitely.
hunters otherwise. So yeah, it'd be cheap.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
That's basically it. Had a couple videos. Always good to check those out. I just appreciate just either editing or just the accomplishments. They're always cool. So finally, we've got, speaking of the sandbox team, they said 1.1.4 had a few potential names thrown around in development. One team member in particular campaigned it to be called the Supercharged Update, which sounds cool. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
To keep communications clear and set expectations about all the changes, it's ultimately decided it would be the Go Fast Update. So even apparently they're thinking too much about the names. Need to be working more on the content.
Yo, you thought this is raw today. I love it.
No, but seriously, I mean, it's like they gotta have name. I'm just giving them a hard time on that one. They have names for whatever the update is, and Supercharged actually just reminds me of a car, so I appreciate it. Somebody's a car fan, so hats off. But they just said in their time in the playtest, they feel the name, be it Go Fast, be it Supercharged, whatever it is. They say it feels better. Tuesday will answer the questions if it does, but again, it's just kind of one of those they're waiting to see when we get it on our hands. I mean, a lot of extra damage in PvE. I might be able to kill those knights. And maybe you guys are just like, hey, get good, you suck, that's fine. But in general, just, giving us a little more feeling like a guardian, feeling like a god. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
Couple high scores on here. All of them are, two of them are PC. Number 3 actually looks like it's coming from console.
Mm-hmm.
And notice last week, 1 and 2 are still up there. So the people who figured out how to tweak the lost sectors and use that at the same time, they got
they're
it.
doing them cheeses.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I wish they would fix this too. It would give even the people running for a high score. It's like, so you'll see Datto or Esoteric or any of these guys going for high scores, and it's like they're not going to cheese them. So theirs could be a high score, it could not. But I was like, when they run through and get it perfect, it's. I like to see those, but then they don't get acknowledged because people are cheesing it. So it's kind of annoying. I even saw a guy have a video doing Savathun's song, and from the middle section, they did a golden gun, turned around, finished him off before he could even teleport again. And they were like, hell yeah, and they did it in like 17 and a half minutes. So it's like they did it while they still could get the time and the points. And it was a cool run. Like, I don't know if it's the fastest one ever, but it was just, they are still never going to be in here because they're not cheesing it. So that just takes away the fun. So next week, everybody will be crunching numbers, seeing what weapons do what, seeing where things are at. So 1.1.4 is coming on Tuesday.
Tuesday inbound. Let's go.
So are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, this is for me. This is definitely for me. The Crucible, needs the love. We're getting all those modes. We're getting a sandbox change. I was a little disappointed this week that they did not go a little bit more in depth, but I mean, they're probably gonna save it actually for to the day, probably Tuesday, the day of. As soon as it goes live, we'll get that patch drop as far as everything, and I think those are the ones I always get excited about because sometimes, on occasion, Bungie has been known to sneak in an additional couple of fixes or things that they didn't talk about.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be something people read and be like, what?
Exactly. So I'm curious to see how that pops off on Tuesday. Listen, this is not the savior, y'all. Like, this is not that, but this is what I consider the steps to get them. Because to me, the way we look at it is, the way at least I'm looking at it right now, because the state of the game is so bad right now. The community, Reddit is just awful right now. Like it
Yeah,
is
it's not great.
such. Yeah, it's bad, man. I got to shout out a few people too. Shout out to the Black Link. I was talking to him and Planet Destiny, bro.
Oh yeah,
Planet,
we're just jumping right in. All right, let's do it.
let's go,
Yep.
because it's just like Planet Destiny is not doing. They're slowing back on the content. They're hemorrhaging subs. You've got those are my guy Fallout Plays was over there. And it's just you just look at the community. I think someone else put up a great Twitter question. I forgot who it was, and he basically polled all the major players in the Destiny community,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of like, why are you not playing Destiny right now?
Yep.
And I think Gathalion had one of the best answers, and he was just like, they took 3 years of what we wanted and feedback and decided to turn it back on the base
Yeah.
and not apply these things. And that's definitely a big factor amongst other things. But back to this whole point, I mean, the way I look at it is this. May is the next big content. They have to go extra hard. I think we're beyond the point now of the Taken Queen being the savior. I
Yeah.
think it's so bad right now, Bontis, that they have to go all out. And I think these kind of sandbox updates pre DLC will help, so that the actual, because once the game plays better, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then you get the next stage is the weapons and all the other stuff. But once the game plays better and it feels different, and then you throw on a good, nice DLC around it, hopefully, that can get some goodwill going. That can get some excitement going. So they've got to get to it. They've got to get to it. That's my feeling. Where you at with it?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely sad to see that, for Planet Destiny, that the podcast and like the website and stuff is definitely going to be kind of going away, which was, I mean, yeah, in Destiny 1 was one of those that even I turned to occasionally, just depending on what I was doing, if I woke up late, like whatever, they were on it. And the guys over there for the first couple years, I mean, you had, Patrick Casey, you had Tefty, you had the solid group, Pope Bear and all them, and they had broken off. So, I mean, they had gone to do their other things, differences of opinion, whatever. But there were still some guys in there trying to make it work. And unfortunately, just with the situation of Destiny 2, losing content, losing followers, losing players, not content, but you know what I'm going with this. Basically, just they couldn't keep it going. And there's not enough traffic to drive a website, to drive a podcast, and pay those people anything to make it worth their while. That's just a sad state of things.
Sad times, bro. I mean, let me just be, full transparency. I mean, me getting into Destiny for the first time, what is this game? I remember I was there from the beta and the alpha, whatever. And I was like, all right, this thing has a lot of tremendous potential. Graphics look good. You just saw the potential. And I remember, because D1 was so complex and trying to understand, and weapons and aim assist and all this terminology was like just blowing my mind. I was like, this is my first console MMO, FPS MMO light.
Yeah.
And Planet Destiny was like my resource. Like I would literally go in there and compare the guns and be like, okay, I got this one, I got this role, I got that role. What's the advantages? And shout out to the original team, like Holtzman in those videos, weapon reviews, things like that. And even the original guys that were part of the cast, like that was part. Like I would tune in every week just to know what's going on and what the meta change. It was just good times, and it's just weird now just to see all these outlets, and it's like my Destiny childhood is going away. It's like how Toys R Us closed. That was my Toys R Us.
Toys R Us closing too. I was like, that's a change in times right there, and I saw that too.
Yeah, man, that was Destiny Toys R Us, bro. So it's like, damn, not at 2 Planet Destiny, but I get it. I can't even get mad, man. Like I get it. It's so bad right now, and I could. Only thing that's going through my mind is, as sad as we are, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I was going through my mind is like, how does Bungie feel? Are you embarrassed? Like, how are you feeling as a company right now that all your major content creators have turned their back on this game?
Yeah,
Crazy.
they haven't. Yeah, it was like turn their back, maybe not completely, but they definitely
they've
they've said it. But I mean, they have set it down and turned. They haven't like said I'm never playing you again. But right now it's like you're not doing it, and I'm going.
Facts.
I was like, whatever. I was like, however you want to phrase it. Yeah. I mean, that's why.
Turn my back was a little extreme of the word, but you know what I mean.
I do.
People
for sure.
People are making announcements now. This is the new thing. let's talk about the state of the channel.
Yeah, state of the channel. I've done this. State of the channel. I'm not doing this. Hey, I can't play this anymore. It's just not fun to do this anymore. And people may do one video once a week. You'll see some pop up next week for the changes and things like that are coming in a sandbox review. You know, Impetash might do like a review on a couple hand cannons or something. All that stuff will come through. But again, as we don't have anything new to play, we don't have anything going on. When people figure out how things feel, what's working, what isn't, you know, does it feel better? Then it's going to taper off again because, again, there's no reason to keep going. There's nothing to grind for right now. There's nothing to work towards because everyone can get that max level. There's no different gun. And that kind of leads me to the other thing we were talking about. It's like, I mean, you mentioned the Reddit thread that I saw, and it was literally like every content creator. It's like they pulled them and got them all. And there were so many just saying it's like it doesn't feel like home anymore. It's 3 years of things, and we've said this before. How do you go through 3 years and just throw it all out the window? Like, they learned the random rolls were good. People were grinding for these. You had gunsmith stuff. You have a gunsmith that has just like random mods you can buy. He's not doing anything. He has next to no point. You've got story missions you can't go back and play unless it's the 3 of the week. And say I've got a friend in town and I want to show him that one mission on the sun that looks really cool on the Almighty, and you're like, holy crap. And like, if it's not the right week, I can't even show it to him because I've already played through my characters. Like, you can't even go back. So,
yeah, man. I mean, I just want to throw one point shout out to BK Bista in the chat. He just basically saying, how could they be embarrassed of them counting all that money? And I hear what you're saying, but here's the problem. That was launch money. And shout out to Matt Piscatella. We had him on our little podcast.
Yeah, I listened to that one.
And what's pretty surprising? Like the last 2 to 3 MPDs, Destiny hasn't even been in the top 10 software sales.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. The word of mouth isn't there anymore.
Right? That's crazy. That's unheard of. We would have said that, in the beginning of D1 cycle, because even when the Dark Below, which was, you want to say that was kind of like a low point for D1.
Yeah.
Post Dark Below, like beginning of Dark Below stage.
Yeah, because it took a while to get what the hell? House of Wolves.
Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, wow. I think, and again, it's that fear. It's that fear when you look at Reddit and people are like, yo, I think people may be done for real this time.
It's rough, man. I got a couple in my chat as well. So I got, let's see if I can say it right, Fool Killer and TF Kronos. A couple of them in there, they're just saying there's no incentive to keep playing. They're not even on the Twitch directory anymore. I mean, if you see your numbers on Twitch dropping, that's a huge platform now. Right. So, I mean, when it comes out, yeah, may it pop. I would be honestly curious when you had, Eater of Worlds, which was the first expansion, when they did the race for whenever that thing went live, versus whatever happens with this May expansion. I don't know if May's expansion is even going to be are people even going to want to do that raid race as much? Like, I worry that stuff like that is even falling off.
Yeah, that's why, to me, the urgency is so key. And again, I don't want to disrespect anybody. We don't know what's going on in that building. But at the same time, it's like, all right, let's just go with the eye test says, Ebontis. Does the eye test say to you that there's a sense of urgency? What does the eye test tell you? I'm going to ask you this question. So
you define eye test just from everything I'm seeing?
Okay. From what you've seen from Bungie communication-wise, from what they've outlined so far that we know from this point, from development updates, yada yada yada, every flashpoint that we've talked about from this point on, in your opinion, does this scream a company that is urgent in getting this game? I'm just, in terms of speed, in terms of urgency, do you sense that? What's your feeling? Am I blown? Like, where are you at with that?
So do I think they have a sense of urgency?
Yes. Do you feel a sense of urgency when you see these roadmaps that, they're trying to get this thing back up and running? I mean, not back up and running, like
almost
like it's not working. But, like that sense of urgency, like, yo, we've got to fix this. Like, do you get that?
I do, to a point.
Okay.
You have so this is where I'm actually going to switch over, if you guys are watching, to Paul Tassie's article. Shout out, always good stuff. Got to be cool to write for Forbes for video games. I love that job
That's
combination. Awesome.
hell yeah.
So he said the weirdest part of Destiny 2 in his recent article on yesterday morning is that Bungie recognized its current problems before release. And this is stuff we've talked about, we've all wondered. So it's the famous example, as he said, of the 10th Better Devils. Okay? So it's like Masterworks helped a little bit, as he mentioned. But again, still, once you get your Masterwork Better Devils, there's no point. So there are bigger problems that their development calendar can't fix, to me, unfortunately.
Right.
So when you say urgency, I know in there they probably are working tooth and nail. Like there's no way they're not working their tails off trying to get everything done. But in turn, I don't know why things still take so long.
Right.
So you've got a sandbox update. It's our first one. 6 months later. And that's the other piece that he mentions in this article. You've got people, and he said it pretty well in the end. He's like, I just don't understand how Bungie foresaw all these problems with loot diversity, balance, update speed, and so on, and didn't actually end up fixing the issues they knew were a problem. I think Destiny 2 players would have been a lot more accepting of certain changes if there was actually gold at the end of the rainbow. That's a huge one. You had to have something to chase. A quickly updated and well-balanced game. They got it too well-balanced, but they still update slow as molasses.
So slow. You
So
got things like Fortnite and all this stuff running circles around them, man.
yeah,
That's
so I
the
mean,
difference.
yeah, and that's what's like you're whatever their process is not urgent enough for the rest of the world.
Exactly.
So
That's the key.
yeah,
That's the key. And I'm not saying they're not working hard.
no,
It's
there's
just a matter of their level of urgency, like you said, might not meet fan expectation of how fast this thing needs to turn around. Because another thing Lord Tassi said, I don't know if you caught a tweet he made recently. He said he hadn't put out a Destiny article in some time.
Yep, I saw
And the
this.
minute he put that up, boom, he said it was like 5,000 hits or whatever the number was, right?
Yeah,
So it goes to show you how ravenous the base is for something to turn around, right? This is a game that people, as even in its darkest hour right now, people are clamoring, if it did anything positive to look and see if it can come back, that kind of thing. And I think well, shout out to Duggan from IGN. He made a tweet a while back, and it was really good. He was like, Destiny's the only game that I can see, like, something if I'm paraphrasing. It was like something to the effect like Destiny's the only franchise I've seen where, the dev betrays the fan base and they keep forgiving them and they come back ravenous. Like,
oh yeah,
but it's like how many times can you keep doing that to your base? That kind of thing.
yeah, no, for sure. It's just one of those pieces where you have to wonder. There are other games out there. Now, I don't know their process. I know they're heavy on data. I know they want to take their time. But again, when you see things like, okay, so everybody knew for like the longest time, auto rifles have been one of the kings, for sure. You have a couple hand cannons like Dire Promise that people use. Submachine guns have kind of found their spot. But auto rifles are still fairly solid to a point of like, they're not getting much of a buff.
Right.
The whole world has known that for 6 months, pretty much from week 1. So why Destiny 2 and Bungie hasn't tried to change, buff up scouts, buff up pulses? Why can't they do that stuff 5 months ago and kind of keep rolling with stuff and be like, hey, this change is coming here. Okay, see how this one does this week. All right, well, this gun is completely broken. Let's just deactivate it. You may own it. It'll come back. But right now, it's like just deactivate it. I saw a couple things, and they literally said Fortnite weapons currently bugged. They're unavailable right now. Okay, so it's okay if you use it, but right now it's not working. So, okay, just take the things out and work on. But those continuous updates, like if we all knew pulse rifles were terrible, like nobody used them. So just go in there and give them a 10% buff, see how it goes. Like I know that's an arbitrary number, but sometimes like do a little testing, like see how it goes. They've got their testers.
Exactly.
And if it's not perfect, then you bring it down 2% later. But if you are doing continual changes, not taking 6 months to do a sandbox update,
right?
That's the stuff kills me. Yeah,
that's the key, because at the end of the day, when you have lack of frequency, right, you're not in the sense of engagement is not there. It's almost like, well, they don't care about this game. They're going to take so long to whatever. And then people just move on, But if you keep showing, even if it's small things like don't we've talked about this at nauseam before on past flashpoints, that even if you make these small changes, people are like, oh wow, okay, they touching pulses this week. Gotta see. You jump in. I remember D1, like, again, not saying that they were frequent, but I remember when there was updates, there was an excitement. There's like,
Hmm.
okay, let's see what the meta is now. Let's go dust off some of those old, slow firing pulses. Those got a buff this
Yep.
week. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Let,
Yeah.
let, let's see what's going on. Let me get my spare change 25 out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know what I'm saying? Like that, it's just one of those things where it's just like that kind of tuning breeds engagement, and that's what this game doesn't have right now. It doesn't have engagement. People are
No.
dropping like flies.
And that was the other thing Paul Tassi mentioned. I hope I'm not duplicating myself here, but he said the fixed role issue was another thing they tried to fix about Destiny 1. They said, there's too many random roles, so it's really hard to balance. And if you have, a gun with like 30 different roles, certain perks may make it OP, and, that may happen. So they were trying to make fixed roles so they could change things more frequently. That hasn't gone into effect. So if that doesn't work, and you're still going to do these really slow updates, give it 6 months for us to gather all the random rolls and then finally do a patch. But at least it gives us something to get.
I agree, man.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that one just, I don't know. It's just so slow. So no, for me, a sense of urgency. You're looking at Iron Banner 6v6, Crucible quitter penalties, exotic repetition reduction isn't even a complete fix.
Yeah.
Companion vendor viewing. I guess that team needs something to do, but
Shots fired.
no, hey, the guys who do the companion, they're a mobile development team. That's exactly what they do. They're working on trying to make things fine. I'm not doing shots against them, but that's one of those things. It's like, that's one of those pieces you probably put on the patch notes, and you definitely take care of the team because people still use the app, but you don't put it as a highlight for your 1.1.4 update.
You're not feeling that as a bullet point?
I don't see that as a bullet point because I use Destiny Item Manager anyway. I haven't used the companion vendor thing in forever. So, oh yeah. At this point, I've got Kronos in chat basically saying it's like they just expected people to take it as year 1 for year 2, and then as a game rather than year 4 for Destiny for the 10-year franchise. And it's like they started it over, and that's why so many issues were like, how do you start it all over? You took 3 years and you threw it off the table, and you went from scratch. You went to 4v4. You took out random rules. You took out there's so little in this, and I sit there and I'm doing the Nightfall solo, and I'm sitting there even bashing my head against it because, like, no matter I'm gonna finish the thing, but even when I do, why? Like, I do it for the challenge, but again, there is no point in me finishing that because it doesn't get me anything new. Now, there's going to be some unique rewards next week, but I swear if it's a reskin on a gun.
Oh, I better not see that. I better not see no faction, no Vanguard style looking weapons.
No Vanguard, no faction. No, I was even looking at the faction armor, and it's like the Karak Titan shoulders is literally the exact same thing as the new Monarchy Titan shoulders, and I was just like, guys, I just like it's
very lazy reskins. Very, I gotta call it what it is.
It is,
and it's rare for me to do that because that's, to me, the strengths of Bungie and the strengths of Destiny. To me, is the artists.
Oh, it's so beautiful, so many times.
They are fantastic. Their art team, shout out to them, and just like the marketing. I always felt those are the two things.
Oh yeah, they can hype a game.
They can hype a game, you know what I mean? And they can show off some cool designs. And I feel in D2 we've regressed. We've had some cool design. Not that there hasn't been any, but when it came to, like you said, things like faction ornaments and these type of armors and stuff like that, when you look at them, like, damn, these are really reskins. And then even with the guns, the gun variety, there's a ton of reskin.
Yep.
In terms of the archetype and stuff. So again, something that has to be addressed, man. Has to be.
And this is kind of where it's like, and we could probably keep going for a while on some of this stuff. It's like, it's painful to a point. We've got 1.2 coming. We know May is going to be content, but for all the things we talk about, be it random rolls, be it a 4th weapon slot we wish was there for special weapons, or a rework in that department, a reason to like an in-game level of content. They just released free DLC You want to make people happy for Destiny 2?
I was just about to say.
I was like, you give away this 1.2 for free, or if you already own the season pass, give me like, I don't know, 2020, like a chunk of silver. Like do a nod to the community to say, hey, if you haven't got this one, come back, check it out. It's free for everybody if you ever bought the game.
Yes.
Because most people have already got the season pass. So then you're just going to give away digital, like, then just give away silver or give away bright dust or both and give us a bunch of engrams to say, hey, we understand. We want you guys to come back, have some fun with this stuff. It's like, here's a token of appreciation at least. Do something. And that's the thing those are opportunities I've heard other people say that they've missed.
Yes.
So when there's certain times when things aren't working, you do something in the game like, hey, in my postmaster, this appears. Take some more bright, because when people were all pissed at Eververse, they never said, hey, here's like 5,000 bright dust so you can buy, a ghost and a shader that are exotic, and that's there.
Good point. Yeah, I think that's exactly what was going on, man. I mean, it's almost like that they need to replicate they need to replicate a Rainbow Six Siege moment. The problem is I just don't see it possible based on the financial infrastructure of Activision. I'm going to be completely honest. I can't see them foregoing, even though that would be the ultimate goodwill, right? Yeah. Look, we botched. Like, you come out with the mea culpa. We botched. We heard your feedback, and this is what we're doing. Come May, Anna Bray and the Warmind DLC, free for those or whatever. And you get engagement, because that's what you need right now. Having a little free weekend here and there ain't gonna do it.
No.
They need to do something drastic, and that's where it is right now. We're at drastic measures, like patient. The heart rate's not there right now.
No, the pulse is like about flatlined at this point.
Facts.
So we look at 1.2. We've got a prestige mode, and you're like, how does a prestige mode take that long? Prestige mode for Eater of Worlds from December comes in May. 5 months later. Seasonal Crucible rankings. Okay, that's a baby step. Private matches, which should read custom games. If private matches are still just a way for me and you to play against each other by choosing to, and that's it, that's still a giant waste to me. Vault space. Holy crap. If it actually happens, we'll see. Or if it's just the 50 for this one, and then whatever the next big thing is going to fix Vault. If it's just 50... I think Destin Legary is just going to walk out of Fire Team chat.
You're going to walk out live with it. I do.
He's just going to be like, all right, that's it. I'm going to throw my papers in the air. I'm out. I'll see you guys when Vault Space is fixed. You guys can run it. And it's like, Fran, Sean, CJ, you guys can just take it over. I'll come back when Vault Space is fixed. I cannot do this. Like, I would just fall out of my chair. It'd be awesome though. Multi-emote wheel. I'm like, really? Like how is that? How is that so hard? I'm not a programmer, but that should be
on that one. That's borderline embarrassing. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Because, and you know why it's embarrassing? It's actually embarrassing for two reasons. One, because it's been clamored from D1.
Yeah. You give us like Eververse was all about the emotes.
There we go. Two is, here's the thing. To me, they're kicking their own self, because it's like your whole spiel is Eververse, right? Microtransactions. Emotes are the microtransactions that you can get away with. Let's be honest. Like when you see something really cool, and you're like, oh man,
I bought the Michael Jackson dance straight up.
Yo, you just remember
straight up bought it. Yeah.
I literally was thinking of Michael Jackson. I said, oh, somebody got the Thriller? I said, oh, I gotta go get that. Yep. Like, I've spent so much money, and I will not be ashamed to say it. That is one thing in Destiny. When I see a dance or some pop culture reference, I remember when the D1 they had they had the Drake, the Hotline Bling.
Yeah.
Dance. They had a lot of pop culture stuff, and you put those things out frequent, people are going to buy that. Now, could you imagine being able to switch between all these different cool emotes that Destiny has? Destiny arguably has the best emotes. So it's just like missed opportunity, and that's financial opportunity missed. Yeah, so I don't see how they botched that one.
No. I was like, and it's coming to 1.2. I was like, somehow I worry that's going to get pushed. And you're like, okay, you can't even get a multi-emote. You've got exotic masterworks. I'm like, they should just be on there now. Because nobody uses exotics. Like, if you're going to, I mean, you can rework the masterwork situation maybe and do your exotic tuning, but if you want us to use a masterwork or an exotic, like, even if it was mid a multi-tool, I might use that as my scout instead and still get orbs from it. That shouldn't be like a crazy factor of like, okay, it can make orbs. Like, why is that breaking everything? I don't know. Seasonal vendor progression, I'm kind of meh, unless the vendors actually have something worthwhile.
Exactly. Something to grind for.
Yeah. Faction rally improvements desperately needed. And they said they know what they want to do. How they're going to do it, I don't know. And then exotic weapon and sandbox changes. And this was another thing where I go back to where I feel like the whole game was rushed. The exotics feel weak.
Yes.
So many of them do. I mean, they don't feel, and they said, hey, we want to make exotics. And that goes back to my line of like, no kidding, but in usually much more crude terms. I'm just keeping it clean. Keeping it clean.
I know what you really said.
Yeah. No beep.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you want exotics? For one, you throw them at us, and then they don't even matter.
It didn't matter. Yeah.
So if you throw them at us, and I was grinding for stuff, and I was like, hey, I got those Aeon safe gloves again. I'm like, you know what? I got a couple of them, but I'm already wearing them because they're really cool. So cool. Like that. I mean, if it was something I was wearing, but I don't even care if I get them 3 times, 4 times, 10 times. Like, who gives a damn? Yeah. And then finally, heroic strike modifiers. Why is this not? You have a whole playlist of heroic strikes. Sorry if I got loud there, guys.
I'll go for it.
But no, like you have heroic strikes. You just literally play random strikes for a milestone, but milestones don't matter so unless you just need some gear. That was the whole point. They were fun, like the daily crucible, the daily story, the weekly story, the heroic strikes with modifiers. Like that was a reason to go do those.
Absolutely. That was part of our daily routine. Those were our rituals. You get the daily done, you get your nightfall, you get your crucible. You know what I mean? You see what the burns are. You know what I mean? Like it's a big deal. Those are big deal. That was part of that culture, and that's another thing that's missing. There's no reason to log in, every day because of the lack of chase and the lack of things to do.
Mm-hmm. And I think that rounds it up. And that's where we're at. It's like all of this can come out. We'll have, unless they drop like a Taken King full overhaul with quests, and I don't think they can do that in May.
Right, I agree.
It's content. It's going to be whatever the final raid lair is. It's going to be the expansion. It's going to be whatever story missions they are. If they take a little longer, hopefully it's more than a few story missions. And I swear, if you add strikes in there that are copies of the story missions, I'm gonna shoot something. I mean, I'm gonna shoot lots of things, but I'm gonna be a little ticked off because that was lazy.
Yes.
Those 2 strikes on Mercury are some of the laziest content I've seen from Destiny, and I know that's harsh for me to say, but that's literally just saying, here's a mission, cut off the end, here's a strike. Like, facts. I would rather have 1 new strike and then maybe have 1 that was like that. But if you don't have 1 new strike, it was literally 5 missions.
Yeah,
and then now you go play them. You can play the missions again, but you can do them as strikes. But like that, there was very minimal added to the game. You had the Mercury Circle, and you had the Infinite Forest, which they have completely not utilized.
Yeah,
so
locked off.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do for Phobos or whatever snowy planet we keep seeing in all the pictures.
Yeah,
but whatever it is. Man, it needs to be. So yeah, we'll see on next week.
It's a big one. Tuesday's big. I want to see how they handle it.
How the game feels.
How the game feels. How it plays. We're really feeling fast. I want to see the meta. I'm gonna bust out. I'm dusting off a lot of guns. I want to see what's actually effective. I'm actually gonna go with like the least. I'm probably gonna jump in with pulses just to give them a shot. I know what I'm not touching is them grenade launchers. Someone else can test that.
Yeah. Well, it's just this bigger blast radius. And I was sitting there, I was even looking at the new Monarchy thing. And I'm like, unless they take the blast radius from where it is on the bar, which probably was like 40, 45%, to 100%, and then you take that number and multiply it by like 20, like, it needs to be stupidly good. Otherwise, grenade launcher, it's a hard thing to hit with in the first place. Mm-hmm. Or make it to where the certain ones that explode, they need to be so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Shout out to TF Kronos. He was like, the modifiers when we were talking about those for heroic strikes, and I was like, he said so much fun. Arc burn with 4th horseman, and I was like, and then throw specialist on there. You would melt some faces if you had 4th horseman with arc burn and specialist. Like, oh man, When you were
I
doing that
know,
in
man.
Prison of Elders, you'd be like, oh, this elite just came out. All right, this elite just died. Like, it was that fast. Like, I
Yeah.
never feel that powerful. So,
Never feel that way. And again, this is why 1.1.4 is important
yeah.
because it's the Crucible side. We got the go fast stuff, we got the meta stuff, and then we underrating the PVE side. They are making some adjustments as far as making things
Yeah.
more powerful on the
Like
PVE
10 to
side.
15% across the board, it sounded like, basically.
Exactly. So let's see how that stuff plays. And again, building blocks, baby steps. Obviously we want this thing to try to come back. The game has to play well first. Once the game play well, then you get the systems, and then from there you can start talking about DLC. Because at the end of the day, it's a tough sell to ask someone to plunk out cash when said. I will assume that most people who bought Destiny right now bought locked in with expansions 1 and 2
Yep.
on that deal. So I think they're okay on that end. But coming, the Taken Queen, so to speak,
Hmm.
they've got a tough sell because if it still hasn't been, in a serviceable state and people are still complaining and it's still where it's at, that's tough to ask someone to pay because they're going to charge $30, $40. You know how they do.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be 30, 40. Because what was it? Taken King was 40, I believe,
Taken
right?
King was 40. Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be 40. They're going to say full expansion, yada, yada, yada. And people are going to be like, hey, fool me once. you know? So they've got to get goodwill back. This is the goodwill tour 2018. They've got to get it back. These are the steps. So it starts here. This is the roadmap.
Yep. And
We'll
the
see
whole
what happens.
community feels it too. So it's like you've got content creators that are, having to play other things because the traffic's not there, because people don't look as much. Like you'll
Absolutely.
have, Paul Tassi writes the one article, but again, there's not even that much to write about. So
Mhm.
hopefully next week we'll give it a little bit, it'll be like a tiny little shot in the leg just to be like, hey, it's still, we're trying. But I think in
Exactly.
the end, it's still going to take,
Hmm.
yeah. I was talking last night with my chat, and I was kind of getting down the road of there's so many things and
Hmm.
such little time. I know it's March,
Yes.
and I know we're looking at September, but
Yes.
you're only talking about 6 months for them to
Good
basically
point.
almost need to rebuild. They almost need to rebuild the whole thing. And
Good point.
it's to that level though. When you look at the
Yeah.
things that don't, you're doing a sandbox fix, but you've got the way stories are built. You've got Ikora doing her story thing. Put those back on the map. You've got um, just the random rolls, so you pretty much need to rebuild your whole weapon system.
Hmm.
You've got maybe needing another slot. You need armor to be completely different, so the stats actually matter. That's still one of the
Hmm.
things that bugs me. So it's
Facts.
like so many of your main base systems, besides the framework of how a gun fires, the
Facts.
look of the world, like the artistry and like the feel. You have like a foundation for a house. You maybe have some boards up for a frame, but there's so much in the middle that's missing. You basically got to gut the house, and you almost got to do it again. And that's
Hmm.
kind of what I feel it almost needs. And I don't
Yeah.
know how they do that. I don't know how they justify it with Activision. I don't know how they win the trust back, but it's going to take something major, as you said. It takes something extreme, whether it's, making Taken King 2.0 or Taken Queen, whatever. Maybe they make that thing. What if
Hmm.
they do it? What if they did it for $10 or even
Yeah.
20?
To me, we're in that kind of territory.
Yeah.
What I mean? The problem is big old Activision
Oh, I
signing
know.
that contract. I just don't see it, man. Like the only people, like I said, Ubi, they had a good shot. I mean,
Yep.
they just went for Siege. They just did like a big weekend. Like they did like a free weekend before their major DLC content drop, and so they had people playing for a whole weekend. Getting used to the new changes, the new meta, so to speak, on Siege for people that dropped again. Because Siege was not. People forget Siege was not well received.
Mm-mm.
It was
Nope.
not. It was. Listen, I love the game, but it had its issues, and a lot of people were like, "Nope, this is not for me." And it slowly built itself back up.
Yep.
Continually patching, quicker response times,
Yeah, they need to
things
just
of that
work on their
nature.
speed.
Speed, urgency,
Yep.
knowing your game is on the way out, and listening to player feedback constantly. And then slowly but surely, they got themselves where the game actually played good. They fixed a lot of the issues and things complaining about. And then they made it free for a weekend, and then boom, right before their little May DLC in their side, it came out right then. So now it played good, you felt good. Now you were like, okay, I can plunk down that little cash for that DLC. I
Yep.
like what they did. Then you justify it. And like you said, the fear is it enough time? Is 6 months legit? There's so many fundamental things that people are upset with and are wrong with Destiny 2. Is it legitimately enough time? And that's the big question.
Yeah.
That's the big question.
And that's why I think Fall is not on this map, because I don't know if they know what they can commit to, what they're looking at, or if any dates might change. Like, TF Kronos is sitting in my chat basically saying, he's like, if it takes a little longer but it was better. And that's the boat I'm on at this point. I want to enjoy Destiny 2. So many of us do. And if it takes longer for it to get there, I know so it's like you and Doc are like, hey, you're going to lose the player base. But like, take some of the major games. Like, if they just took Destiny 2, they know it's a wash. And they've got to rebuild it back, but they do a Destiny 3, but maybe it comes sooner than expected, as opposed to a 3-year cycle or something. And they rework the whole thing, they bring it back, like, then you'd have a decent shot. Like, take your time to rebuild those things. Don't throw everything away this time,
Right.
and have stuff going in progress. But then, like, just do patches, maybe some, I don't know. I can't decide. I know Activision is there, but I was like, it's tough. Like, I don't, that's a tough one.
It's tough because it's two school of thoughts. It's like there's no wrong answer. It's just, how are you received by your community? If you go take that time and you get it right, then it's about, okay, when do you get it right? When do you drop it? And we already talked last Flashpoint about, content release schedules, Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, the fall is packed.
Call of Duty, you know what I'm saying? Like, when is right? Then, the elephants in the room. Division 2.
Yep.
Anthem.
Anthem has some struggles right now, but that's a whole different matter entirely. There,
but at the end of the day, it's
it's out there. Yeah,
it's competition in your space, Mr. Destiny.
Yeah, I mean, seriously,
it's competition. So at the end of the day, it's like it's so key to when these things happen. So part of me is like, that's where I lean towards the other way. It was like, well, maybe they gotta really push this main. They really gotta get this thing going now. Keep it in the mind share, because when people don't care anymore, it's tough. Yeah. It's tough, man.
Shout out to Fool Killer in my chat. He was like, so what you're saying is Bungie itself needs a go fast update right now.
Yeah, they need to go fast. Yo, shout out to you, man, in your chat.
That's awesome.
They need to go fast.
They do. Like, they've got to be quicker on patches, quicker on updates, quicker on. I mean, if certain things take time, just start tweaking with stuff, being like, hey, this strike have your artists. You've got 6 weeks. Okay, this is our Nightfall schedule we're going to release. You guys focus on this one so we can drop it now. So you could have dropped it last. Like, they want time for the artist to do it right. Well, you have 6 weeks until those things drop. You're not going to drop them all at the same time. And then maybe you won't give them away. Do them 1 week at a time. Like, find your way to, you have a weekly game cycle. Use that to your advantage at some points.
And you know what my fear is? Again, not to make this all long-winded. It's just that my fear is, if you notice, our boy, Mark Noseworthy and Luke Smith, they're not involved anymore, right? This is now Damage, Cosmo, even Deej is kind of in the lurch, right? He's not really in the mix anymore. Everything's been thrown on, Damage right
just
now.
Just a live team, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and Christopher Barrett, which is Christopher Barrett. But it's like, to me, you can't even be thinking about Destiny 3 right now. People are gonna say no way. You've got to have all resources on deck.
Yeah.
For 2. You have to save 2 from the doldrums, right? Yeah. So I know that future planning says, you work on the next game, and I know that's how the business works. I get it. Yeah. But if this is a dead game, no one's coming back. So I don't know. That's just me.
No, it's like, and yeah, there's so much up in the air. So it's like, are they working on Taken King 2 or Taken Queen, whatever we call it? Are they already kind of dabbling with Destiny 3? We don't know what they're doing. It's a huge studio, and there's multiple teams. There's multiple studios working on this stuff.
Yo, bro, this is Bungie. And
Oh, I know.
It's their DNA. That's what they do. They don't communicate with each other. It feels like this team's not talking to that team.
Yeah,
You know why?
and that's what, and that, you can't do that anymore. They've got to stop that like disconnect.
Got to stop it, man.
They've got it, and that was what. Yeah, it was like you had the live team work on this. It's like you guys were. So we saw the live team. Things kept getting better. Strikes were good.
Yeah.
We added content. Even had a social space with like a findable ghost in there, and none of that's in Destiny 2. What would you guys just like leave them in the other side of the building and just like you guys? Do you guys have two buildings and they just go separately? You work over here. We're over here. We're in secret. We don't talk. We don't look at that game anymore. We don't play D1. We are D2 now. We don't talk to you. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know how so many disconnects happen, and I think like the world knows it. So, I mean, you take a Halo 1 to a Halo 2. You didn't throw everything out. You added to it.
Facts.
So,
facts. May's going to be telling.
Yeah, May will answer a lot of questions. May will answer if we can keep doing this little chat that we do. It's like we love it, but yeah, it's like if May is a bomb drop and they really fail on that one, man. That's gonna be like that. The world of the landscape of Destiny 2 is gonna look like the landscape of a Fallout game. There's not gonna be a lot left.
Exactly, perfect analogy.
A lot left. They're gonna be rebuilding from scrap. So, all right, guys. I think we have rambled a little bit here and covered stuff, but yeah, the week is interesting. But yeah, sites like Planet Destiny just like shutting it down. Content creators moving on. We don't know what's coming. Things like the patch, like exotic repetition, isn't even fixed for me. That one just hit me right in my heart because I've been preaching and hoping for that one. And it's just like, no, I'm just dying over here. So
I feel you, bro.
We'll see. But Tuesday will happen. We'll do another one of these probably next Friday, and have some patch notes to talk about. And maybe the weekly update is like, hey, the patch is out here. Look for April for the marketing campaign to get going.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm banking. I'm gonna be in PAX East in then about 2 weeks. So I'm banking, as far as the actual marketing schedule, that they should really start pumping Destiny 2 DLC now. Like we should be in that 5 weeks out mode where they start promoting it. So we'll see how they handle it. And hopefully they have a presence there and maybe get some inside scoop. Flashpoint.
Get some inside action.
Exactly.
All right, well, we will wrap this thing up. For all you guys who did follow in chat, thank you guys for tuning in this morning. But yeah, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, man. Like I said, Lord Cognito here. You already know where to find me on Twitter at Lord Cognito. And of course, church is Sundays. The Iron Lord podcast will be going down this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Inner Circle Network channel. We've got a guest cooking up. We're just trying to finalize. It should be just trying to make sure he's locked in. It should be a fun time at the round table talking everything in gaming. We got some cool topics going on. We got some Sea of Thieves to talk about. It's gonna be a fun show, man. We got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's like, and there's just more coming to steal, like Sea of Thieves. There's another one.
There you go. Regardless of how people feel, these are games.
Have you played it much, by the way? A little tangent here. I
have played it.
Here's the question. How deep do you think that game is?
Nah, it's not deep.
Okay.
It's not deep at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
That's what I've gathered. That's what I've gathered so far.
Shallow.
So,
no pun intended.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Well played on the pun, but yeah, that's kind of what I've gathered, and but again, it's still a different experience for some people, and some people make their own little worlds out of it. So, just one more thing in the world of competition. Yeah. But yep, for me as well, you guys know where to find me. Twitch.tv/Ebontis. Some of you guys are watching me right here. Twitter.com, Ebontis as well. But shout out to Lord Cognito, Iron Lords podcast. Those guys always have a nice, entertaining chat. Fun, little passionate group over there. They definitely get worked up at times, but it's fun to watch it go down. But yeah, I got my Nightfall solo posted up last night. So if you guys don't follow me on YouTube,
proud of you.
Oh man, that was a rough one. Last week was brutal though. I spent so much time on it last week just trying. And still not finishing it. I got to the boss like 10 times probably. I could get to the last bar of the boss. And then it's literally the point where he basically continually rotates, continually spawns ads. And it's just the point where if you aren't in the right spot at the right time, you start the whole fight over. And I mean, I watched Esoteric. He'd like get on a platform and just kind of pump out rockets real quick and throw. And I was literally debating. I was like, okay, so and this is why I'm wondering is like, okay, do I switch supers, wait like 6 minutes for it to charge up, which will be nice next week when I don't have to wait that long. Wait for it to charge up and then just throw rockets, hammers, and everything and just try and melt him. And it's like, and I just didn't switch and I kept dying. So I was like, screw it. So yeah, took my time. I got this one done. But yeah, check me out on YouTube as well, guys. It's Ebontis everywhere. If you look me up, that's pretty much where you'll find me on Xbox, PlayStation. It's easy one. It's a weird name, but it's definitely unique. So it's what I've got everywhere. So to all you guys checking us out, as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. And for wherever you guys are at around the world, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. Have a good one.
You too, man. 1.1.4, the savior.
See you guys.